Good morning. I'm Cheryl Casoni. I'm in for Maria Bartiromo. It is Wednesday. It is April 29th at 7 a.m. on the East Coast. It is time for the hot topic of the hour. Former FBI Director James Comey indicted again by President Trump's Department of Justice, this time by a federal grand jury over a 2025 Instagram post showing seashells arranged to read 8647. Prosecutors argue the numbers can be interpreted as code, with 86 sometimes used as slang for eliminate, 47 referring to President Donald Trump as the 47th president, saying the image could be seen as a threat against the president. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announcing the charges during a news conference yesterday. Listen.
The first count is that on or about May 15th of last year, he knowingly and willfully making a threat to take the life of and to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States. Count 2, James Comey knowingly and willfully transmitting in interstate commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill the President of the United States. Both of these counts carry a maximum term of imprisonment of 10 years. So I think it's fair to say that threatening the life of anybody is dangerous and potentially a crime. Threatening the life of the President of the United States will never be tolerated by the Department of Justice. While this case is unique and this indictment stands out because of the name of the defendant, his alleged conduct is the same kind of conduct that we will never tolerate and that we will always investigate and regularly prosecute.
The former FBI director responding to the charges, issuing a defiant statement in response to his federal indictment. Watch this.
Well, they're back. This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach a year ago. And this won't be the end of it. I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid. And I still believe in the independent federal judiciary. So let's go. This is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be. And the good news is we get closer every day to restoring those values.
Comey's lawyer issuing a statement to Fox News, writing this: Mr. Comey vigorously denies the charges contained in the indictment filed in the Eastern District of North Carolina. We will contest these charges in the courtroom and look forward to vindicating Mr. Comey and the First Amendment. Tiana, so to be clear, when this happened in May of 2025, James Comey's response was, oh, it didn't occur to me that this would be read as a threat. You know, this is the former FBI director, okay? And President Trump was on the news channel last year, and he said he knew exactly what that meant. This is a quote from President Trump. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination.
Yeah, and also Comey clearly lied. He said, I just stumbled across these shells and I had to share it to my Instagram following. He deleted it, which also will probably be used by the prosecution to say, oh, he had consciousness of guilt and that somewhat impugns his motivations. But it's that intent element that's going to be incredibly difficult to prove, just because the Supreme Court, correctly, is very liberal with what is protected political speech. You have to be very deliberate in order for something to be interpreted as a threat. The one thing I will point out to the acting attorney general's credit, he noted right then and there during that press conference that the Trump DOJ has gone after assailants who have credibly threatened Joe Biden and other Democrats. So it's not that this isn't a crime that is prosecuted. It's that this specific instance might be a little thin.
Right. Well, and look, Jonathan Turley writes this on FoxNews.com. This is the opinion article. And Jonathan Turley, a very respected voice on our network, said that the post may be crass, he writes, but charging him is a free speech trap. He goes on to say, for over a decade, I've been one of his most vocal and consistent critics. I've got dozens of columns that criticize his excesses and the damage he's done. But the fact is, I believe this indictment is facially unconstitutional, absent some unknown new facts. So this would be up to the DOJ.
And, you know, if you want to think that this is 3D chess, it could be a part of this John Brennan investigation that's happening in Florida, which is about the real damage that Comey did. The real damage Comey did is not about increasing the temperature, because, frankly, you have everyone from Jimmy Kimmel to the rest of the press corps to thank for that. The real damage Comey did was starting the Russiagate conspiracy theory that, you know, 64% of Democrats, according to the Manhattan Institute, think that Putin has compromise against Trump that he is using to this day.
Well, and Luke, that's a great point because words matter. Yep. And this is the dangers of social media, which we've talked about many times on the program, that when you've got social media that's coming out and people are posting XYZ, like this post from Comey, that can inspire others, people that might be weakened. And we just had a third assassination attempt against President Trump.
Words matter, and so does perception. Perception matters a lot. And the fact that Tiana just said something like this is thin when it comes to the legal side of things, we have to pay attention to that when it comes to the markets and the economy and the belief and stability and trust in the system when it comes to using the DOJ. And what I mean by that is, again, when it comes to what whether he had intention or not, as a guy who uses Instagram, I wouldn't take a picture of seashells, especially a random number. So I think there was something there. I'm not saying he did, but we have to look at the DOJ and how it's being used, because it wasn't so long ago, just a few years ago, they were targeting Trump. So when it comes to the belief in the system, the DOJ and the Federal Reserve independence, these kind of things, we need these other nations to own our debt to keep interest rates low, things we got to.
Well, but Tiana, real quick before we go, I mean, you mentioned John Brennan, former CIA director, and, they also have these new charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center. So we're seeing a different tact coming from the DOJ under acting director Todd Blanche. So I don't know, it just seems like there's a new concerted effort to re-prosecute.
It's definitely a little smarter, but the one thing I will say that Blanche made clear to drop it in there is that this investigation was going on for, I think he said 10 months. So this was started under Pam Bondi's tenure.
Correct.
So that could have been a slight, if you guys don't like the outcome, don't blame me.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
The acting attorney general, Todd Blanche. All right.